Welcome, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order so that we leave enough time for the questions for the candidate, but please keep eating, and if you're in line, don't worry. We'll wait for you. All right, well, welcome. We're so glad to have everyone part of our group, and we want to thank some of our elected officials are here, so we want to recognize them. Mayor Billings from Hurricane, welcome. Sorry for stopping. And then we have our county commissioners. I saw Gil Onquist, and I think Adam did he make it in? Good, perfect. Victor, did I miss him, or he's not here? Okay. Thank you for being here, always supporting us. Senator Vickers and Representative Brooks, thank you so much. Good to see you. Yay. And then we also have Sheriff Brooksby, I think. I saw him. Good. Thank you. And we have our county party chair, Lisa Sandberg. She's usually helping out there, so thank you, Lisa. Did I miss anyone else? I think that was all today. Okay. Perfect. Let's see. We have a little bit of business to do for our club today as well, but we're going to start with our prayer by our chaplain, Sharon Simmons, and then we'll turn the time over to Carol Bracken for our Americanism.
On this National Day of Prayer, let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we're thankful to Thee to be together again back at the Abbey Inn and for the excellent service of Carrie and her staff and the nourishment they provide. We're thankful to Thee for our candidates who are with us today, that through this session we may learn more about how they would serve us as our representatives. We're grateful to Thee for the Ironman World Championship on Saturday and the benefits this event brings to our community. We're grateful to Thee for Elon Musk and his ownership of Twitter, opening it to the voices of all people. We're thankful to Thee for the continuing citizen awakening to the harmful effects of the left's agenda Thou hast shown us. Through the response to Disney's actions after passage of Florida's Parental Rights in Education bill, through the short-lived CNN Plus program, and the decline of the Netflix subscribers, among other events. We're thankful to Thee for Judge McFadden and his acquittal of Matthew Martin, the first January 6th participant to be freed of misdemeanor charges. And we're thankful to Thee for all those who have given their life in military service for freedom, and whom we remember and honor every Memorial Day, that they are never forgotten. Father, we ask Thy blessing for all our county candidates, that each may feel enriched by the experience and involvement in the difficult political environment we currently face. We ask Thy blessing for all Ironman athletes, that they may have a wonderful experience here. We ask Thy blessing for Elon Musk. May his bold action inspire others to act for liberty. We ask for Thy blessing for the many January 6 defendants still in pretrial detention, that all may receive just resolution and freedom to return to their families who have also suffered from this injustice. We ask Thy blessing for the family of former Senator Orrin Hatch, that they may find comfort that he is at peace with Thee. And we ask Thy blessing for the Supreme Court justices. May their final decision on Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health, which may overturn Roe v. Wade, be based on the law of the land, our Constitution. And lastly, Father, we ask for Thy blessing for Mayor Michelle Randall. May she have a speedy recovery from surgery. We humbly ask these blessings in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
That was beautiful. That was awesome. That was totally awesome. That was totally awesome. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Police Week. Police Week is a week set apart each year in May, although the dates can vary from year to year. May 15th is a specific date to recognize fallen officers. For the past 3 years, the Washington County Republican women and our associates have been very involved in Police Week. It all began in 2020 when we were not only experiencing a pandemic, but there was a lot of anti-police rhetoric throughout our country. Even in Washington County, it was a discouraging time for our officers, although many did kind and thoughtful acts. One day, the St. George Police Department went to work with hearts pasted all over the wall outside of the building. It was during this difficult time that we decided to reach out to our county law enforcement, the Washington County Sheriff's Department. I have been told by a friend who works for the St. George Police Department that police officers, contrary to some public opinions, do like healthy food. So we wanted to do something food related. I will tell you, though, that doing something for 170 officers or more involves a lot of food. We decided to do a small brunch. When the Red Barn in Washington learned what we were doing, they gave us a big discount on fruit. And Einstein's Bagels was also very good to us, which we greatly appreciated. Lisa Sandberg was our president at that time and sent a memo out to everyone. We made signs and we're so grateful for all who came, including local and state officials who spoke and promised these officers that they could count on their support in every way. It was an incredible and powerful experience. Afterwards, I spoke to the police chief who said, "Thank you for coming. I have had a lot of officers questioning whether or not they needed to look for a job elsewhere, and this has really helped." Last year, 2021, Sharon Simmons wrote a beautiful resolution which was read and passed unanimously. Kristen Clark was the president at the time, and she and her husband Eric Clark worked tirelessly in support, as did many of you, and we thank you for that. Sharon is going to tell us more about 2021.
So the resolution we decided on was a suggestion from one of our members. And as Carol mentioned, I drafted the resolution. We had it printed up and framed so that each of our 10 county law enforcement agencies would receive one. We made, there were small groups of us that got together, and each group went to a different county agency to formally present the resolution to them. And the procedure was they would read it to them and then present it to their chief. I would say that probably the most unique experience out of all of those 10 agencies was Washington City Police. When informed about it, they asked us if we would present their resolution at their annual banquet during Police Week. So that was really special. So all of the agencies appreciated it, and it was very well accepted. And that was last year.
So this year, our president, Haley Kaplan, and the board, and all of you have helped to recognize the precincts here in our county with a big thank you card for each one. Police Week is a time for all of us to appreciate law enforcement and what they do for us, and we truly appreciate our law enforcement officers and heroes. Today, we have Sheriff Nate Brooksby with us. He has served in local law enforcement for over 25 years. 25 years, of which he has been at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. He worked with Sheriff Pulsifer, whom we think so much of, and has been a member of the Republican Party since he was 18 years old. Sheriff Brooksby has said, during my career, I have repeatedly sworn an oath to support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Utah State Constitution. I will only support candidates for office that fight for our fundamental rights, small government, and our conservative values. And we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate all that you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you.
We're going to turn some time over to Nate Brooksby, who will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. As you mentioned, 2020 was kind of a tough year for law enforcement, the defund the police movement, and one thing that was incredible here in Washington County, we saw a little bit of that bleed in with some of the protests, but in reality, what we saw was just citizens coming out of the woodwork to support us. Dropping off gift baskets, the resolution from Republican women, I have that hanging in my office. That just fantastic that we live in such a great community that truly supports our law enforcement. And in Washington County, in the state of Utah, we police our own very well. We don't want to have any negative perceptions of law enforcement. We're very community service oriented. I run stats quite often, and one of those is citizen assists. So the last time I ran that, we had 450 citizen assists in a 12-month period. And that's things like helping somebody change a tire, giving somebody a couple gallons of gas to get to the gas station, things like that. So that community spirit, that community support is very fundamental to law enforcement, and we could not do it without the support of the community. So I really appreciate all of you here, and particularly the Republican women for their support of law enforcement in the last several years. Thanks. So with that, I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to our new member welcome. Marion, I don't know where you were seated. Come on up. And then I will conduct a little business, and then we'll go to our program.
Okay, hi everybody. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. We are pleased to announce that we have 34 new members so far for 2022. And 5 we have not recognized yet, but 3 of them are here today. And I'd ask you to stand up if you could. Alexis Entz. Dayla Evans. No Dayla. Stephanie Myers. And we have a new associate, Chad Benyon. WCRW currently has 86 members and 15 associate members. Of our 101 members and associates, 54 are GEM members. And we have a few of them here today. I'd like to recognize Cleo Atkin, who is a Diamond member. Stephanie Myers is a Gold member. Charmaine Gall is also a Gold member. And so is Dayla Evans is a Gold member as well. Now, these members pay money to our club beyond the $35 annual dues and have eliminated the need for us to fundraise. So it's a really great thing for you to think about doing. And there's a few perks that go along with that during the course of the year as well. If any of our new members haven't gotten their badges yet, please stop by the counter outside. You'll probably find your badge there, and have a great meeting, a great luncheon. Thanks.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you. Just a couple reminders. We have Juneteenth celebration for the county party coming up. Is hosting that, so you can get your tickets now on the county party website. And then put in your service hours. On the back of your program, there's a little Survey Monkey link. You can go there, you can put in, this campaign season, a lot of you guys have been putting in a lot of hours. So put in those hours, and that goes to NFRW. We work towards, and our club has gotten the Diamond Award the last couple of years, so we want to keep doing that. Good job. Lastly, it's May, and we always elect our nominating committee that will work towards electing a new executive board for the club next year. So we need to get an official vote on that. After meeting with our board of directors and executive board, we have nominated or asked, or they have volunteered, Sharon Simmons, Jennifer Nelson, Kathy Percival, Crystal Hegeman, and we want to open up one more nomination to the floor as well. If you have a nomination for the last spot, please raise your hand and we'll take it right now. Sharon?
I nominate Kristen Isham.
She has nominated Kristen Isham, and are there any other nominations at this time? Okay, then we will ask that Kristen Isham work in that last spot. We also have Carol Bracken as our alternate. So we will take a vote of members all in favor of the nominating committee as presented. Sharon, Jennifer, Kathy, Crystal, and Kristen, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. So what they'll do, thank you, is they'll work now over the next several months to interview and talk with our members, and they will present a slate at the November meeting for the 2023 board. Thank you for letting us take care of that. All right, we're going to turn the time over to, where'd she go? I don't know where she's sitting. To introduce our panelists, and we'll go forward with what you came to hear the candidates. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm Shirley, better known as Adam's mom. And I'm okay with that. All right, for candidates, I have to tell you, I have had so much fun talking to family members, finding out little tidbits about these candidates. Oh, it's worth the hours. Okay. We're going to start with District 73. We have Colin Jack, who hates runny eggs. But his favorite chore is doing the laundry. And he is a bass singer in a barbershop quartet. Travis Segmiller is, I found out this morning, not feeling well, so he's not here. Found out late last night, Nina Barnes is committed with Regency staff, so she's not here. So you get the whole table to yourself. Wow. District 72. Willie Billings. Oh my goodness, I have got to hear this afterwards. He loves hunting. His favorite animal to hunt is elk, and he bugles using his throat. He can make the sound of a bull elk and a cow elk and a calf. I think we ought to have a concert. Well, I understand that he can do it with his throat because he almost swallowed a reed once that he was using before that. Joseph Elison. Joseph will eat anything as long as it's covered with cheese or peanut butter. And his son says if anything bad happens to you, it's probably because you weren't wearing your shoes. Joseph is a member of the Cheese of the Month Club, which I'm going to have to find out about because cheese is my vice in life too. But he gets 3 cheeses sent to him every month. So candidates, you will have a 1-minute opening statement, and then at the end you'll have 1 minute for closing statement. Our moderator, Justin Kaplan, will take it from here. If the other candidates will please come up. Oh, the cards are, if you have a question, you want to hurry and get it to one of us.
Yeah, there were lots of questions that were handed in beforehand through email. We kind of because there's lots of the same issues, the same topics, we kind of consolidated some of those. We were thinking we were going to have 3 candidates over here and less time. So we may have time for written questions today in addition to the ones that we've taken beforehand. Thank you. Okay, well, first of all, we drew names. Y'all didn't, but we did. Yeah, why don't we come over here? Sorry, people over here. That's a good idea, though. Let's have y'all together.
But call it in the middle.
Good decision. There we go. Okay. So we'll start with, thank you. We'll start with the 1-minute opening statement. We drew names from a hat. That was before we knew that Travis and Nina weren't going to be here. So eliminating them. We'll start with Colin, and then Willie, and then Joe. And then as we do the questions, then we'll kind of cycle through the order that we'll do.
All right,
Okay,
is there a timekeeper?
There is a timekeeper. Who's keeping time?
I forgot, it's me.
Okay, Shirley's keeping time. And a few other ground rules of how we're going to do this. So we'll have the opening statements 1 minute each. The questions will you'll each be given 1 minute to respond to. If you want to respond to an opponent's answer, then you'll get 30 seconds to do that, and your opponent can respond back. So if you want to have a little bit more engagement with each other, that's encouraged rather than just a forum like we've had before. So go ahead, Colin, and we'll start you there.
All right. Well, thanks. My name is Colin Jack. I'm the chief engineer at Dixie Power. Some of you already heard that. Oh, microphone. Hello. No.
Hold it down.
Hello. No.
I paused the timer, just FYI.
Pass that one for now.
This one?
Oh, sorry, but then we won't hear.
There's another one. Oh, okay. All right, sorry. My name's Colin Jack. I'm the chief engineer at Dixie Power. And as an engineer, I'm a problem solver, and I'm constantly working to keep your lights on. And so I'll take that same problem solving attitude to the Capitol to tackle the toughest problems facing Utah. And just like delivering power to your home, I will deliver results for Washington County. We need a staunch conservative, and I've been a delegate from Washington County since 2008, and I've served in every level of party leadership. We need a tight fiscal conservative. I can stretch a dollar as well as anyone, and in this economy of hyperinflation, we don't need rhetoric, we need real action. We need a worker, and I love and revere the Constitution, and it takes actual work to protect those constitutional freedoms and deliver for our citizens. I promise that if I'm elected, you will have a lifelong constitutional conservative who has a history of delivering results. Thank you. You guys sit? Okay, we sit, or is it better we stand up where you sit? Stand up, okay. I'm Willie Billings. I've served as the party chairman for the county party, Republican Party here, and as the vice chairman for the state Republican Party over the last 20 years. Then I took a little sabbatical for about 5 or 6 years when we had some serious health conditions, but we're back, okay? And I have been known my entire life as a conservative hometown boy where I grew up, milking 130 cows in the mornings and going to school and playing ball and this snow set hunting. I did a lot of that. I grew my love for that in Monroe, Utah. And then we've lived here for about 35 years now, raised our 5 children. We got 5, almost 6 grandchildren now. And I am a staunch constitutional and fiscal conservative. As an investment representative working with budgets for 35 years, I know how those work, and I know where the waste is from an individual's budget, corporate, and we all know the government has thousands of spots where there's waste and mismanagement of those funds. And I want to dig in and fix that problem. I have a dear love for our educational system and the teachers that serve there and the kids. And it is my sheer desire to, what was that? Oh, is it over? Oh, didn't hear. Was I talking too loud? To fix the budgeting and make sure teachers are correctly funded and paid. Thank you.
It's good to see many of you again. I'm Joseph E. Lisson, and for you ladies, my wife gave me the Cheese of the Month Club as a Christmas gift. It was the best gift ever. So you just go to amazingclubs.com, hook your husbands up, and you'll have a loyal spouse for the rest of your lifetime. But, no, my family, we moved here from Southeast Idaho about almost 40 years ago, where we grew up on a dairy farm right on the Snake River. It's a beautiful place, but Southern Utah is home. We've raised our children here in Southern Utah. I too, fiscally conservative, staunch conservative, constitutional-minded individual. My concern, just like probably many of you, is I've been a business owner for 30 years now. I have kids that have gone through public education. My wife is a special ed teacher. And I'm very concerned about where our country's going. I do not like this woke culture, the cancel culture. I do not like to see government expand. There's a lot of bantering around of wanting to actually increase our local government on a commission level. I'm all for minimizing government, keeping government small, keeping government responsible to the citizenry. I don't believe in expansion of government. I believe in lower taxes. But I'm not the type of individual that's going to get up here and just give you words that you want to hear. If I say that I'm going to help lower taxes, that means I have a plan to help lower taxes. I believe words matter, and I'm never going to promise you ever anything that I will not follow through on. If I cannot do it, I will not tell you I will do it. My integrity means everything to me. So when I say that we can actually lower taxes, because how many times for the last decades have we heard politicians say, I'm going to lower taxes, and then what happens? Oftentimes it never happens. I'm the type of person, I actually have a plan to lower taxes, outside the box thinking, from a business owner, from someone who understands how things work. And that's my promise to you. I will do what I say that I will do.
All right, now we'll move over to, I think, Willie Stark. Okay. And we'll pass it around that way. Okay. So first question, how do you define being an effective legislator?
Rather than say legislator, I like representative. Because we're elected to be your representative, and an effective representative represents you, which means they're connected to you, which means they're in great communication. I've been frustrated for years that our local representatives will never call us back, never receive a text. We feel like, why did we vote for them if they're not gonna? I guarantee you, that's one of my platform issues, is I'm gonna be right there. You call, you text, you email, I'm on it. And because I wanna stay well connected, because the only way I can actually vote for you the way you want me to vote is I have to know you, and I have to know what your desires are as a community. So I think as a legislator / representative, I think the best thing we can do is build our relationships together and make sure I know what the heart of my district wants and what their desires are, and I follow that. Thank you.
A legislator is a representative of the people. I think if you're going to go to Salt Lake City and help pass or not pass law, I think one of the first things is it's very important to understand what is a law and what is a loophole. If you believe that there are laws and you believe there are loopholes, I think it's important to understand the difference. That's a big factor right now, is understanding that principle. Number two, representatives are accountable to the people, not to government. And the problem that we have in the state of Utah starting to be, and also in Washington, D.C., is what we have way too much of the administrative state that has been given authority from the legislative body. In other words, the legislative body is relegating and delegating way too much of their authority away from their responsibility. As a representative, we're accountable to voters. Administrative state is not. Why is Washington, D.C. broke? Because there are laws passed by EPA, all these different things that the legislative body have completely lost control. And if we don't capture that right now in Utah, like right now, we're going to end up in the same boat. We got to make sure that you and I as voters have access to our legislators and hold them accountable to make sure that they're not giving away that authority, because the administrative state is not accountable to you and I as voters. That's a huge component that we've got to make sure that we maintain. So that's my promise to you as a lawmaking individual. I promise you, I will make sure I understand the difference between laws and loopholes, and I will also make sure that I understand what you want as a citizen, and make sure that we keep the choices and the decisions made by people who are voted for by you and I as citizens.
All right, I think one of the most important things to start off with is I think it's important to show up and to be present, to come when you're at home, to come visit groups like this, to come to the Washington County Commission, to the Water Conservancy District, to the school board, to the party, and wherever the citizens who are elect us are congregating and are working to make our community better. Second, I know that no legislator is a one-man team. It's a big group and there are a lot of people involved. And if you have a good idea and you draft it, the first thing you have to do then is send it to the legislative attorney who puts it in legalese. And then you go to the rules committee and you have to explain why you want to make that your proposal out. And so then you've convinced the rules committee to send it to its committee where then it will be heard, and you have to find a floor sponsor in that appropriate committee for both the House and the Senate. And then once you've got those, then you've got to get it passed through the House and the Senate, and then you've got to lobby so that the governor signs it. So when you have ideas coming to you from your district of things that need to be fixed for Washington County in our case, then that's the process you do. You play a part in it, but you have to be an active part in it. You have to be present to participate. Thank you.
Now let's start with Joseph. What are your top priorities next session if elected?
Top priorities, I love this. My big concern, one of my major concerns is education, because we have this, like I said before, this woke culture coming through. We had some very bold legislators this last session that were, and have, I think, been, for the most part, really trying to protect Utah against the critical race theory and a lot of this very anti-American, and it's not beholden to our principles as a state and as a party. And so I want to continue to fight for that. I want to make sure that we keep education strong. I believe in severing ourselves from the National Education Association. I have visited with Larry Bergeson, our superintendent, and Richard Holmes, who both of which are supporting me in my campaign. They too share the same feelings. They want to do that. Their concern is that the state of Utah does to our Washington County School District the same thing what the federal government's doing to the state of Utah. We feel like there's way too much pressure from federal government on state government. Well, our schools believe the same thing. They believe that there's way too much state infusion into the education choices. Those decisions need to be made on the local level. You and I as parents, with our school board, with our administration, we make those decisions. So anything we can do to help facilitate that, that's something I'm going to be fighting for in a big, big way. I also look to be on anything finance related, because I do have plans of helping us reduce taxes, actually increase cash flow to our state, because I think outside the box, I think that's a huge component, because it's easy to say we need to pay teachers more, we need to do this, that, and the other. All those things come with strings attached. And until we figure out how to replace that revenue, that's just talk. That's why nobody ever gets taxes truly reduced in a big way, is because they never have any ideas on how to create revenue in other places. That's where I come into play. Because if I say that we're going to reduce taxes, it's because I have a plan of actually being able to do that. I'm not going to get up here again and just promise that. So those are two probably the biggest focuses, but making sure we maintain our conservative way of life here in Washington County and the state.
So let's keep Joseph and Willie going.
Okay.
We'll rotate between you two, and we'll have Colin go either first or last, just so that we can have the two candidates against each other going back to back.
Sounds good. You know, I have to just say ditto to what Joe said, but for the last year, I've been saying all of that. Okay, I'm a big proponent of those who govern closest to the people govern the best, because that's where we have the greatest influence. And so the decisions on our children's education is crucial, more now than ever. And we need local representation, being the people that have the say in that, so we have the biggest influence on them, period. So we've got to do what Joe's talking about. And I've been talking about for over a year now, we need to either eliminate or reduce the state school board down and completely disintegrate our association with the National School Board Association, which we all know what they've done in the recent years. So that's a big deal to me, as it should be to all of us. But I can't go, or Joe, or whoever, we can't go up there and fight these fights and take the bullets, which we're willing to take, without having your support. That's why our engagement together is so vital. We got to be able to come back here and talk to everybody here and get thousands and 10,000 or more signatures or emails and phone calls, putting the pressure where it needs to be applied. So that's a big one. Education for me. State lands is a huge issue. Why is almost 70% of Utah's lands owned, controlled, and managed by the federal government? We can manage our own gardens, can't we? And where there's enough people here and enough resources, we can take care of that. And we can stop these wildfires and get our forests taken care of correctly. And we don't need somebody back east telling us how to tend our gardens. Okay? And we're probably out of time right here, but another big issue to me is changing the culture in our elected officials, where they're not trying to pass record numbers of laws every single year. Yeah. They should be bragging about how few laws they pass and how many bad laws they got rid of. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Let me echo how important education is. As a republic, we have to have an educated populace. And I know all about education, having a wife who's a school teacher and my brother who's a school teacher. And so I've heard lots about education. So we've covered that. One of the things you probably haven't heard from me is about electricity. But as an electrical engineer, I got involved in the county party because of government, federal and state government overreach into your rights to mandate which kind of light bulb you can buy and to mandate how much that's going to cost. You may not realize that if you're not a member of Dixie Power, sorry if you're not, but if you're not a member of Dixie Power, you may be paying about half of your rates because of federal regulation. So one of my big parts as an electrical engineer is to go be part of the Public Utilities, Energy, and Technology Committee, because everybody gets assigned to a committee according to your specialty. And I think it's important to have one electrical engineer on that committee who's deciding the energy future for Utah and protecting against that overreach, the Green New Deal stuff that's coming through. And this last year, how are we doing for time? This last year, there were 5 Green New Deal bills coming through in Utah, 4 of them proposed by Republicans. So how do we kill that kind of stuff? You need a gatekeeper who's watching out to make sure that your electricity stays on and that it stays affordable. So that would be my priority. I would love to talk about, we're against critical race theory. We're against all of the things that as conservative we all care about. I don't think you're going to find a Republican who would vote against the Second Amendment. I wouldn't either. Anyway, thank you.
Hey, so this week, a draft opinion from the Supreme Court was leaked that makes it a real possibility that Roe v. Wade will be overturned and it will go back to the states. In Utah, we have a trigger law that criminalizes abortion with a few exceptions. What do you think about the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade, and what do you think the state should do with regard to abortion?
All right. Yeah. So it was interesting. I was in Washington, D.C. this week until last night. It's our annual trip to remind legislators that there are residents in the United States outside the big cities. So we do that every year at the beginning of May. Anyway, so as we were going to the Capitol, we were passing by the Supreme Court, and we got to see some of that going on. But the decision on abortion should have always been a state's issue, should have never been a federal issue. If it's not in the U.S. Constitution, it shouldn't be a federal issue. It should be something that is mandated by the states. And so I support Utah's law that should the Supreme Court stick to their guns, overturn Roe v. Wade, turn it back to the states where it belongs. I agree with the state of Utah's laws that has abortions only rare and infrequent and in special circumstances.
Sounds like that Dixie Power needs to issue our police their Dixie Power generated tasers, right? A little more effective, a little more power, and cheaper, right? No, I agree with what Colin said. There are very few things, if you read the Constitution, there are very few things our federal government is supposed to be doing. Very, very few. That was a contract established by the states to give the federal government a certain amount of limited power so that we could govern ourselves. And I believe in that platform, and that stands true of Roe v. Wade. It does need to be overturned. I do believe whoever leaked the justice's information, I think they should prosecute. That is a significant violation because now you've got all kinds of opportunities for, well, you all know the story, right? But I absolutely support that we get rid of Roe v. Wade, and I do support Utah's law, absolutely.
Isn't it wonderful to see the pendulum turning the other way? Okay, and I'm telling you what causes that is conservatives en masse stepping up and putting their pressure on and forcing this. It's the people that do that. Obviously, anybody that would stand up here and not say that they were for the overturning Roe v. Wade, it should be escorted out. Where's the sheriff? Okay, this is a states' rights issue and an individual rights issue, and the state should have control over that. And I'm against abortion in every sense, other than what these guys for very, very, very limited and special circumstances. But I'm in complete support of overturning Roe v. Wade and putting those decisions in the hands of the states, where we, as the public, can control that. Thank you.
Yes, the Willie Joseph Colin. Okay, so there were several questions about election integrity, including there were multiple citations that people emailed in to the same studies or scores that have been provided to Utah, including a Heritage Foundation ranking Utah 41st in election integrity, just between New York and Illinois. What is your position on the concerns about election integrity and confidence in our elections in Utah, and what you believe should be done, if anything?
The concerns are valid, aren't they? Yeah. We have to get on top of this issue, and I'm willing to do and support any legislation backed by all of you to do anything and everything we've got to do to go back to in person, show our ID validated. Okay? There's a lot of people against that because when you do mail-in voting, you do have higher turnout ratios. I understand all of that, but none of that matters if they cheated. And none of that matters if we don't have faith in it. We've got to do everything we need to do to bring our faith and our confidence back to that voting system, because without it, our representative republic falls apart.
I do believe this is a huge issue. I do have a lot of confidence, however, in our local Washington County Elections Committee. I know a lot of them personally. I know there's a lot of talk that said, hey, we even had a lot of, I don't know, falling apart, I guess, on a local level. I do believe that the biggest issue with voter integrity is, number one, we do have to get major involvement. We got to get more people involved in the election process. I too am a proponent of in-person voting and having to show a photo ID and so forth. But I'm going to call upon all of us right now, because if we truly want that, then we've got to step up. Because you can't have in-person voting when nobody's willing to go work the polls. You can't have in-person voting when no one's willing to help make sure that that process happens. It's just like our convention system. If we want our convention system to prosper, we need people to step up. We all got to get engaged. We all got to be part of that. What's one of the biggest arguments that you hear about paper ballots? Everybody says, these ballots are being shot all over the place, all over the country. Well, isn't it my responsibility as a voter to make sure my voter information is accurate at the county? Absolutely. So where's the accountability side of this too? So we can sit here and blame fingers and point fingers at our county officials and our state officials, But we also have to point those fingers back at ourselves and say, what am I doing to make sure that I'm keeping my voter information up to date and encouraging my neighbors to keep their voter information up to date and teaching people about what the caucus system is, teaching people about what are the principles of the Republican Party. All of us have to take ownership if we want conservatism to win, which is the best form of government ever. We all have to get engaged in that dialogue, and we all have to be a better salesman in selling conservatism. Rush Limbaugh said it the best. He said, the problem with Republicans is we don't sell conservatism well enough. The Democrats sell liberalism very, very well. It's easy to talk about Santa Claus, right? But we all got to take ownership. If we want these institutions to survive, we all got to step up.
Well, so since I'm sitting between the two, let me take a middle stance here. I have trust and faith in the Washington County Clerk's office. Now, I've been told that there's evidence that maybe everything wasn't 100% correct. So I'm planning to go on Friday the 13th to hear whatever evidence is proposed. And I've also learned that there can only be an audit of past votes if the state legislature orders it. And so as an elected representative, if my constituents are telling me that they don't have faith in the past election, then I would vote to support an audit of the last election so that we can verify either the election was good and therefore our elected officials are valid, or we found problems and therefore we need to visit those problems. So I'm all about solving the problem. If there's a problem, let's find it and let's solve it. Thank you. And I'll stay here for a minute. Go ahead.
If you're okay with that, we'll just keep doing that.
Yeah, I'm already up.
The next question is a two-part question about the Dixie name change. So first, I think it's an easy one. Did you support or oppose the Dixie name change? Second, this was an interesting question, and I had to read it a few times and kind of reword it for myself to understand. But in light of the fractured relationship with the community caused by the Dixie name change process and decision, would you support a bill to require the governor to seek advice and consent of the county commissioners in Washington and Kane counties for all appointments to the Utah Tech University Board of Trustees for some period of time? The writer put 16 years.
Okay.
Do I need to repeat that or summarize that? So,
Oh,
so the
if you want to hear
is,
it again, let's have it again.
ultimately, the
You have to
question
read it
is,
3 times.
ultimately, the question is, would you support or run a bill that would require the governor, when he's appointing new trustees to the Board of Trustees of Utah Tech now, Dixie, but it's going to be Utah Tech, a bill that would require the governor to seek the advice and consent of the county commissioners in our county and neighboring Kane County.
Okay. So the first one was just generically about the Dixie name.
Yeah.
Is that right? So part one, I don't know if any of you knew, but I work for Dixie Power. And as an employee of Dixie Power, I go all over representing cooperatives, representing Dixie, representing Washington County. And in fact, I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and I'm wearing my Dixie Power logoed shirts. And at no point have I ever received any criticism or attack for wearing a Dixie Power logo. At most I get are curious questions as I meet people and they say, Dixie, in Utah? What on earth? And then I get a chance to explain about Mormon pioneers and my ancestors who crossed the plains. And okay, you guys know the story, but it's a good opportunity and I don't mind it. So the second one was about Utah Tech and their board, the governor appointing
The Board of Trustees.
Board of Trustees approved by the county commission. Yes, I would support that. And I think the county commission should have a say on who is controlling our local university. It is a state university. Here's a concern though I have about Utah Tech, if it's going to be Utah Tech. In one of the candidate forums we had prior to convention, there was a recent graduate from Dixie State, in computer science who found that he was limited in which jobs he could get because because Dixie State didn't have an accreditation from the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology, ABET certification. And if that's true, and I don't doubt him, but if that's still true, then that's a problem. You can't be a tech school if you don't have an ABET certification.
Okay, part one, any of you that were at the convention heard my speech. I came out very, very strong in support of Dixie State and to remain that way and support legislation to turn it back, okay? But what I didn't get to say at the convention, because I ran out of time, was I mentioned that leadership who supported that Dixie State name change advertised their weakness in leadership, and they joined the woke culture. But what I didn't get to say right at the end was that if that offends any of you, I heard there's now room in California. Okay? Second part, anything where we can drive things local, where the decisions on the Board of Trustees made by our locally elected officials, where I can sit and look at Victor and look at Adam and look at Gil and say, listen to me. The entire community does not want this. That's where the decisions need to be made, right here locally.
So I've been interviewed by a lot of people in running for this position, and there was several education groups that wanted to know my position on the Dixie name change, and I said I was completely against it. I felt that it was a cancel culture decision. That's the way I perceived it. Now, of course, they're going to argue and say that it wasn't and so forth, but as a citizen, as a husband and father, as a business owner, I felt like it was a cancel culture decision. I don't know that it was good for our community. I think our county commission were completely opposed to it as well, so kudos to them. And can I also put kudos out to our county commission for keeping us open and free and maskless and so forth during COVID, right? I think that they were owed another term simply because of that, but it's kind of backfired on us, right? Because now we have everybody and their dog that wants to live here. And now we have all these growth issues because we're free and people want to live where we're free. So as far as the appointment of local leadership, I agree. Anything that we can do to keep things on a local level, have more infusion with the local vision and what we want our university to look like, I totally agree with that. Here's what I told them. I said, the problem with a name change, I says, if you go down to Bob's Burger joints and the burgers are terrible, you can change the name of that 5 times and it's not going to change the outcome of that restaurant. What we need to focus on, high quality, amazing students. That if you want to put your energy and your money and resources somewhere, that's where you put it. Because if you're putting out amazing students, who cares what the name of the university is? Case in point, look at BYU. Outside of Utah, they're known as a racist, homophobic, misogynistic school. They're now in the top 5 best education for your money in the nation. The CIA, FBI, NSA, they're the top recruited university in the nation. Their business and law degrees are amazing. You see them changing their name? No, right? So we need to focus on what's most important, that is putting out amazing students with fabulous educations. Name, no one's going to care.
Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah.
What is one quality in your opponent that you wish you had, or in your opponents?
To bugle, I mean, I can't do that, right? But I do want to hear that. Really. Yeah, I think we should make them do it. But anyway, I don't know, maybe it'll be so loud that we won't want to. But no, that's cool. I could definitely get hunting tips from Willie. I'm not as good a hunter as him, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate Willie's drive. He is a very focused individual. He's a very driven individual. When there's something that needs to be done, if I were going to war, I'd want him next to me.
Wow.
That's not fair because I start crying when he does that. Let's state the obvious, his hair. went through the entirety, every campaign meeting I have, whether it be an individual or a group setting, I say there's not a lot of difference between Joe and I. We're both staunch conservatives. And he's a great husband, he's a great father, he's a great man. Okay? And I'll stand by that. There's no animosity at all in this election between me and Joe. Okay? We're just two people that we believe we can help serve our communities, and it's our season that we believe that we can do that. Okay? And so I don't want to say I wish I was from Tokerville because I live in Hurricane and I love Hurricane. Okay? But a quality of Joe's that I've witnessed, and I've watched this young man for 30 some odd years. We've known each other. Is his demeanor and his calm personality and those types of things. I liken myself to that, but I just look at him. I know how calm and how focused he is, and what a good person he is around that. I had somebody just the other day say to me that, Willie, I'm going to vote for you just because you're so much like Trump. And I said, tell me about that. And because I got a lot of ridicule for voting for Trump and supporting him back then. I got a lot of ridicule. But just as long as you understand that I'm willing to be bold and say that, but I will not do mean tweets. And I will not offend people. But Joe, you never have to worry about any of that with this guy. This is a world-class man.
So if we're stating the obvious, and if we had my two opponents here, I wish I were as tall and thin as they are. Or that I could give as short an answer as, Travis does into the soundbite. I'm an engineer, right? I'm used to showing my work and get down to the answer and put a box around it, because you didn't get full credit in engineering school if you didn't do it that way. So I'm used to showing all the way anyway. So I wish I could give you the short answer more often and give you those sound bites, because they really play well. And I don't know how many minutes of mine you have to get before you could edit out a good sound bite. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, regarding education, if you're elected, will you introduce a parental rights and education bill similar to that passed in Florida, perhaps even extending the time frame to the 5th or 6th grade or even later?
Here's the test, short answer. So yes is the short answer. Parental rights, I believe we as parents, and I had 3 kids, right? I mean, just because they're all in their 30s now doesn't mean that I didn't have little kids. If you look at me, my hair didn't used to be white. But yes, parents need to be involved in their kids' lives. They need to be involved in their kids' schools. I knew my kids' teachers. When I had the chance, I walked my kids to school. Some of my kids' teachers were also delegates with me, and we commuted to the state convention together, and they're friends to this day. And I know that I didn't have the fears as a parent with my kids' teachers that younger parents have today. If they don't know their teachers and you don't know what they're teaching, and it may or may not be an issue here in Washington County. I certainly don't know any people who are teaching what I hear about in the national news, but that's the long answer. The short answer is yes, I support that.
Okay. I'll do the short answer as well. I would absolutely support legislation, because parents are not just the primary stakeholders. We are the majority stakeholders in our kids' education. And we need to have 100% of the say in how our kids are educated, where, when, and how. I've had 5 children, and they're all different, as are all of yours. And as parents, we're the ones to say, this one would be better in a private school for this reason. This one would be better in a public school. This one would be better homeschooled. We need to have the rights to dictate every part of that, because we're the ones that know our kids best. And that's where I stand.
I have to say kudos to our local schools. Do we have problems in our local schools? Absolutely. But they are very careful to listen to us as parents. If any of you wanted to go in and talk to Richard Holmes, and I think it's, I forget her name, that he has handling the curriculum, they will open up every single piece of curriculum that is taught in our school district to you and I as citizens. So you can rest assured that they are taking very, very careful measures on a local level to make sure that that happens. Now, can they control teachers and what teachers teach? No. As far as this legislation, it's not going far enough, actually, because that stuff should never be taught in schools. That should be taught within the walls of the home. So my support is any legislation that strengthens the family. It's not just education legislation, because what is it? Do we want the government to just continue to control and dictate every aspect of our life? There comes a point when we have to reinstall the family back as the basic unit of society, to where we strengthen the family, we strengthen the individuals to make the choices for their kids. I was a huge proponent of the Hope Scholarship. Those types of measures are going to give us more education choices. My son Adley was a huge pusher of that. He works for Americans for Prosperity. They were up there lobbying like crazy to push that through. It only got 22 votes in the House. And I understand there's reasons why that happened, but those are the types of things we have got to make sure that we get past. Not only this one that you're talking about in Florida, but we've also got to make sure that we get other measures passed to give you and I as parents more and more and more say in our education. And that way we're going to have a much better school system. Our administration here, sometimes people think, well, they're just these kings on the mountaintop. They're not. They actually listen to us. If you ever take a chance to go talk to our leadership, our administration of school, they are seriously concerned about our children. And so that I'm very grateful for. But on a state level, we've got to make sure that type of attitude, that type of leadership permeates the rest of the state, not just in Washington County.
There are some questions about digital driver's licenses. What is your position on digital driver's licenses? Do you know why the state has started a pilot program on that? Do you believe it should be mandatory for all? Will voters be given an opportunity to vote on that? If a program like that gets fully implemented, how do you address privacy concerns that may exist by having that on the state app?
So for all of you Napoleon Dynamite lovers, I love technology, right? If you didn't catch that, you should probably go watch Napoleon Dynamite. Anyway, great show. I do love technology. I think one of the greatest blessings of Bitcoin and the whole blockchain technology is it's going to make a lot of these types of things a lot more secure. Our bank account, our personal information more secure. Do I love having a driver's license in my wallet? But you know what? Much of our identity theft is actually coming from people losing their wallet, losing their purse, or being stolen. In Utah, not a lot of our personal data is being ripped off through technology. It's actually just people misplacing stuff or things being stolen. So do I support it? I'm totally open to the idea as long as we know that it's going to be secure. If we have that, if we can tap into that blockchain technology that's coming down the pike, and we can make sure that it's secure, for sure. But otherwise, I'm also in favor of keeping our physical IDs intact, because I do believe in that too. It's the same thing with cash. Am I opposed to a digital dollar as long as it's secure? No. But do we need to have cash? Yeah, I think we should have both, because I do believe there's some virtues in both, actually.
I think there's a big fear with what he's talking about, the blockchain technology and all that, because it's so new and no fresh. And it's always going to boil down, and Joe said, it's always going to boil to prove to me that this is secure and that my life and my personal information is more secure. Prove to me, make me know that, and then I can support that. But in no way, shape, or form am I in favor of making that the only thing we have. Okay, we need that security of a paper document or a driver's license in our pocket, those types, because people are going to be secure, or they're going to feel secure with it, and there's people that will not. And for government to say you have to do this, I'm always going to be against that.
so this is one of the loaded questions that there's, what does the question itself say? And then what do we infer from all of the other stuff that comes with it? So if we were talking about a digital ID, strictly speaking, then there's nothing wrong with having things digitally. However, then you add all of the other inferred stuff with the ability to be hacked and the ability to be stolen and the ability to be changed and how much additional stuff gets attached to it, then that's where our heartburn comes from. Isn't that right? So, you know, we exchange digital money through Venmo, and we do lots of things with email and with Facebook and all of that, and we get comfortable with that. But if we're going to do our identification, we would need to know that all of our other personal history weren't attached to it, and that it all wouldn't be easily accessible, and that it would have to be secure. That goes with our banking, our retirement. I mean, all of the things that people get hacked and they lose money, that comes to our mind when we hear about putting everything digitally, and that's a real concern. So I would be leery. I'm not sure that we're there yet with the technology as we have it, but you know, I guess we'll see where it goes. We didn't start out with cell phones, right? I mean, first time I used a cell phone was probably in about 92, 93. Before that, there was no such thing. If you were away from home or out of the office, there was no getting a hold of you. So things change, things get better, and I don't think we're there yet.
One more question?
You got one more?
Well, yeah, there are some more.
You just gotta pick which one?
That's the thing, yeah.
All right, pick the easy one. Square root of 3. 1.73.
What's your position on the state's role in immigration? Should the state keep or remove things such as driver's licenses, state ID cards, in-state tuition, etc., for illegal immigrants?
Okay, yeah, so the key word for me in the question I hear is illegal. And when I hear illegal, I think we ought not legalize something that is inherently illegal. So clearly the federal government is broken when it comes to immigration, and I get to thinking that nobody can be that unlucky or that stupid, so they must be doing it on purpose, which leaves the states to clean up a huge mess, because now the federal government has allowed all of these illegal immigrants instead of making legal immigrants and providing a way for people to come to America the correct way. And so the states have a mess. How do we deal with uninsured drivers? Why is it that every time I pay my automobile insurance, right, I pay liability and I pay for comprehensive, but then I also pay uninsured liability and uninsured comprehensive? So why is that my fault and my obligation? That's a real concern. Some of that is because we know that there's a population here who either chooses not to or can't buy insurance. So I've watched the state try to solve insurance problems. I've seen the state try to solve identification problems, but first we've got to solve the immigration problem. And I don't know when the federal government's going to do that, but I don't think the state should legalize something that's illegal.
I can never wrap my mind around and support or endorse anything for illegal immigrants when we're complaining about not funding our kids' education. I can't support anything about illegal immigration coming in here, excuse me, when we've got homeless laying on the streets. Our own citizens. Okay, so we need to take care of home first, USA first, Utah first. And I will not get behind any type of illegal immigration and legislation that supports making that legal, because you see, it's inherently wrong, period. Okay?
There are very few powers in the Constitution given to the President of the United States. This is one of them. And we have a guy at the wheel right now that is failing significantly, especially on this issue. Illegal immigration is not healthy, it's not good, but can we be honest for a moment? We do need healthy, good immigration. We are not having babies right now in this country like we need to support our own population. Do you realize without immigration, our population would be declining right now in the United States? You think we have a Social Security problem now? That's why I think there's some interest in making sure we somehow find a way to give a pathway, a good, clear pathway for clear legal participation in our system for immigrants. There are already laws on the book, they're just not being enforced. That's a failure of the federal government. So as a state, I support anything that would help facilitate an easier way, not lessening the requirements, but an easier way to help people understand what are the requirements. Let's get you documented so you can start paying taxes. If you're going to be here anyway, let's start getting some taxes, right? And then we can kind of figure things out on the other side. But as a state, we have very little control over that, other than we don't have to give out all this free stuff in our state. But then there's also, we have to understand the side of compassion. You know, think about these families who are coming here that do need a better way of life. I've got a dear friend that lived during the Sandinista crisis in Nicaragua, and his uncle was shot point blank pistol right in town square. His family was one of the largest property owners during the Sandinista crisis. And they ended up leaving and went to Guatemala during that period of time. So I get freedom. I get that people want it. We just got to figure out how do we take the side of compassion and humanity and make sure that we make it not easy, but help them understand how to become legal, because we do need it.
All right, closing statements now. And let's see, which order did we go in? So we went Colin, Willie, Joe. So let's go Joe, Willie, Colin.
Okay. It's been awesome being here with you. I hope this has been helpful. But as far as closing statement for me, my personality, I'm the type of person, a lot of folks who support me say I'm much like a Ronald Reagan. I'll never be like a Ronald Reagan. But I want to promise you this, there are always two sides to every issue. There always is, always will be. I will always listen to every side of every issue. That doesn't tell me I'm going to vote for a Democrat idea, but what is the biggest frustration that we have as conservatives? We believe that it's almost impossible to talk logically to a Democrat, right? Isn't that what we always say? But can we also be guilty of that on the other side too? I'm the type of person, I'm an intellectually honest person. If I have faults, I'm going to admit them. As a Republican Party, I think we need to do what Ronald Reagan did. I think we need to quit dividing, and I think we need to be more inclusive, and I think that we need to hold firm to our principles, but we need to start creating an environment where we get civility back into the political arena. That's what I bring to the table.
Joe's right on the civility issue big time. Okay, that we have a society that's grown to where if you disagree with me or I disagree with you, we have to be mad at each other. That is just not the case. When I was the vice chairman of the state Republican Party, I was given charge back then by the chairman. He said, Willie, I want you to deal with all the problem people. Okay, and so from the entire statewide, for some reason, the larger percentage of them lived in Utah County, okay? But he charged me with bringing that group together on opposing sides, all trying to get to the same spot. But I have the ability to bring people together, put my arms around people of different beliefs, find out where their common ground is and bring that together and get things done so we're all in alignment pushing together. Everybody in this room doesn't agree on everything. But when a decision is made by this body per se, Everybody's responsibility is to then get in alignment. Even if it's not the way you wanted to get it done, we all want the same thing. We got to get behind each other. So I have that ability. Thank you.
Well, thanks for taking an hour with us and for listening. It's been a lot of fun. But hopefully you realize that I don't shout the loudest, but when I do talk, it's because I've done my homework, and I'll tell you what I've learned and what I know. About fiscal conservatism, 30 years at Dixie Power, we've raised rates by half a penny. And so I'll put that record against anybody else's record in the country. And we need somebody who shows up, someone who jumps into the trenches and does the real work behind the scenes to actually get stuff done and win a few battles. Our freedoms are not protected, our needs are not met, and our voices are not heard when we simply shout talking points. You can have a principled conservative and an effective legislator. So I'm Colin Jack, and I humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the candidates. We know it's not an easy thing to put yourself out there, so let's give it a round of applause. And we really appreciate you being with the Republican Women's Group. We are the educated voters, right? We gotta learn, so thank you. A couple things to note. Next month, we are going to bring District 74 candidates, so if you were wondering about them, and our county commission race that it has a primary as well. So if you're interested, that will be our June meeting, so please join us. We all work together in the county, so even if you're not in that district, I think it's good to be informed. And let's see if I'm missing any other announcements. It was asked if we do have our representatives here, if they're willing. I think Senator Vickers, I don't know if Rep Brooks is still here, but they are probably willing to answer questions too if there was anything that was brought up that way. Oh, yes, it's 17th, right? The county party is also going to host a debate May 17th, and it's going to be at the Dixie Center. So you'll want to be to that. We will break off. We'll do a county commission debate, and then we'll break off into districts as well. That one, please tell your friends. We really need to get the public out, get our primary vote out in greater numbers. So look forward to those. And if there's no other further business, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
They were asking for the time on that debate.
Yeah,
Oh,
the time.
what time does it start? 6 p.m. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. 6 p.m. on May 17th. So that's coming up another week or so.
Did you say at the Dixie Center?
Dixie Center, yes. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Second. We're trying to follow our Robert's rules, so thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week, and we appreciate you. Perfect.